very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. We're broadcasting live from the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Wozoma. It's good to be back, guys.
Yes, indeed. It's good to have you back, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
You've been strong all through.
Yeah, we got to do what we have.
Most times.
Bukola misses you. That's what she's trying to say.
Of course,
I miss you too.
Of course, I miss Jeffrey.
Yeah. So there's this thing about African, messaging. So they want to say, I love you. They say, have you eaten?
Yeah. they don't come out straight.
They don't come out straight,
So you have to decode.
You get it.
Exactly. So we started this encoding thing, Abi.
I think our forefathers.
Okay. So when next you say, have you eaten? I'll know what you mean, right?
I'll stop saying it then.
Of course, it's Inspiration Monday, the Monday that you get up, do what you have with what you can while you're there. It's the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Goka.
And I'm Kaido Kikilu. It's good to have you on the show. Bright Monday, absolutely. Lagos is awake. Not like Lagos ever really sleeps. And we're here to ensure that we give you the perfect start to your day, your week. I think it's this penultimate week to salary week. Something like that. So just to help you to hold on, while all of that is happening.
An important reminder, Kaido.
Absolutely.
So how's it been? Yesterday, we got news of Biden, finally saying, I got to leave this scene for someone else. So maybe that's going to be part of our conversation today. But I was talking to my wife and I said, African leaders actually left the WhatsApp group when that happened. Did I say it?
Yes,
Where?
you did.
So it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I think he was one that left the WhatsApp group. So he was actually a part of that already.
There's a new WhatsApp group that says that when you're tired, life has taken its toll on you, you're contributed to society, you should know when to call it quit. That WhatsApp group, African leaders can be found. There's a neighboring country, Cameroon, that is straight talk. Bobby has been there
since 1980.
Since I was barely maybe 3 or 2 years or 4 years.
Jeffrey, if you ask me, I don't think they were ever in that WhatsApp group. They would avoid that WhatsApp group like a plague, and you could check on Cameroon, you could check on Gambia, you could check on, quite a number of other African countries for evidence. So they were not there, Jeffrey.
And again, I say that he was also in that WhatsApp group because, vice president for 8 years,
8 years.
Over 80 now. And it looked like he was going to run for this until, the recent mistakes, the gaps. Well, not recent. I think they have been building up for a while.
That was just a crescendo.
Exactly. And then the huge call for him to step down. By the way, this hasn't happened since maybe the 60s or something. So it's a lot happening. But I should say that some are saying it's a tough decision to make. Some say, well, it was only the rational decision to make. But what I was going to say is this. There's a thinking of the people. There's a thinking of those who are not in government. And there's a thinking of those in government, politicians. It looks like they are worlds apart, really.
No, it's not like looks like they are.
They are worlds apart because the way the average politician thinks, the way the average person in government thinks is different from you see things rationally, like, no, this is straightforward. 1 + 1 is 2. But I tell you, see, that 1 + 1, if you look at it from this angle, it can be 21. Another angle. So it's very interesting seeing the dynamics, but it looks like he has given way to reason. But then the journey ahead is quite tricky.
Well,
guys,
quite a surprise, really, because if you consider that he had said repeatedly that he was going to go ahead, he would not be distracted, and then he comes up finally, to say, look, I have to concentrate on my work as president. So how this will impact on the U.S. elections, the presidential elections in November, particularly for the Democratic Party, is yet to be seen. Will Vice President Kamala Harris, who has gotten the endorsement of her boss, will she be able to stand up to the Republican candidate, President Trump? And will she be embraced by all the senior Democrats whose voice, had been sounded and, had put pressure on the president to resign? It remains to be seen, but it will form our conversation today, and we're looking forward to hearing, what our analysts will have to say.
All right, guys. So let's bring you up to speed with what we're doing today. So there's this protest that is just in the air. People are calling for end bad governance protest and all of that, just to call their attention to the government of how things are in terms of all the numbers you're familiar with: headline inflation, food inflation, the high cost of living. People are literally scratching it through as much as they can. And it's been quite a difficult scenario for a lot of people. And that's why people are saying, look, we have to hit the street to announce to the government that things are no longer funny. Some are saying, well, this could turn to a Kenyan case where we'll get the results we want. This could turn to Somalia case. So there's pro and against all of that protest. We'll explore that conversation today as far as the show is concerned.
Well, apart from that, we already said it, that he's the oldest sitting president. And now that he has stepped aside, announcing his decision to focus on the challenges of the presidency during the remainder of his tenure. What happens to the Democrats? We'll have that conversation later on today.
And of course, we're taking a look at what tech savvy really means. There's an exclusive preserve for is it the Gen Z or the millennials? What exactly does it mean to be tech savvy? And how can you be tech savvy? How can you harness all of the potentials in tech, which actually means technology, right? Just in case you're wondering. Today, we have a special guest. You may have seen her on and off social media. MissTechy joins us to see how much this revolution can impact our lives, either for better or for worse. So we'll talk about digital content, communication with others, internet, artificial intelligence, and so much more. Yes.
All right, so that's exactly how the show is going to look today. It's a very beautiful Monday morning, the very first of the week. So we'll take this quick break. When we come back, it'll be time for us to bring you your top stories, and then we'll get to the big conversations for the day. Join us again. Top on the brief this morning as Accra, Ghana hosts the 6th mid-year coordinating meeting of the African Union. President Bola Tinubu has been giving accounts of the economic community of West African states. The president says the body will continue to dialogue with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Gwoza still remains their territory.
This bomb blast that happened in Gwoza, I am telling you, these people are not from Gwoza. They didn't come from the Mandara Mountain, nor the Sambisa forest. These people are being imported in. They are being imported in just to tell the government or to tell the people that they are still here in Gwoza. It's not like that. These people are being imported in. And as I tell you earlier, we still stand strong. That thing cannot deter us. This bomb blast cannot. It's just unfortunate. We lost our people, and that is destiny.
Let's now move on to other stories. The reinstated Deputy Governor of Edo State, Mr. Philip Shaibu, believes the Edo State Vigilante Network is responsible for last week's airport road shooting in Benin City, which led to the death of a police officer attached to the APC governorship candidate, Mr. Monday Okpabolo. Mr. Shaibu made the allegations during an interview with journalists after a Thanksgiving Mass at the St. Paul's Catholic Church in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
They know what they have done. They are trying to cover up, but they cannot cover up. This one, they can't cover up, not even when a police officer was a victim of it. They cannot cover this one. No. All of them must be picked. We have given, the police must do his work. They must pick them. They orchestrated it. The men of the vigilante and Powov did that. The vigilante in Edo State kill a policeman. IG definitely we go into it. So don't worry about ourselves. They are struggling to see how they can rob people in. They can't rob anybody in. The vigilante in Edo State kill a policeman, and definitely I'm urging the president, the IG, to set up an inquiry to not only investigate but to prescribe in vigilante in Edo State and Powov. I think I will speak more to the youth. The youth, I will want the youth to know that you can be who you want to be, only to the extent you are consistent. And you must do what is right at all times. If anybody come to you to disrupt this democracy, they want to destroy your future. You must stand your ground to make sure that democracy succeed. If you vote them in and they are not doing well, vote them out. But don't go to the street to want to disrupt peace. Because when you go to the street to disrupt peace and there is war, you and I will be the victim.
Still in Edo State, but this time the state government says it has petitioned the Inspector General of Police over Thursday, July the 18th, breakdown of law and order in the state, which they say was allegedly orchestrated by the reinstated Deputy Governor of Edo State, Mr. Philip Shaibu, under the pretext of executing a judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja, for which a stay of execution had been filed and an appeal entered. The state government says it's calling on the police to thoroughly investigate the matter by inviting Mr. Philip Shaibu and other persons mentioned, and if found culpable, should be brought to book. While it appears the last has not been heard of that incident, that shooting in Edo State, as the State Police Command has vowed to declare persons it had invited to aid in unraveling the circumstances surrounding the killing of the Inspector of Police attached to the senator in Benin City on Thursday wanted if they failed to honor the invitation. The Commissioner of Police in the state, Funsho Adegboye, while addressing journalists, affirmed the command's respect for Senator Okpebolo.
Investigations are in top gear to unravel the mysteries surrounding the circumstances that led to the murder of the gallant Inspector of Police and the attempted murder of the distinguished Senator Monday Okpebolo. We are not leaving any stone unturned. We abandoned their known addresses. That is why we took another step of dropping invitation to their relatives. Meanwhile, if they fail to honor this, the appropriate legal procedures will be followed, and this may include declaring them wanted. We respect people no matter the class the person belongs to. The PRO inadvertently referred to the distinguished senator as one Monday. It is not in our. The Inspector General of Police, IGP, Kayode Adeolu Egbetokun, PhD, NPM, was disturbed. Myself and disturbed other senior members of the police were disturbed about this. And I want to use this opportunity to correct that almost unpardonable error. The senator is a serving and distinguished senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Senator Monday Okpebolo is the gubernatorial candidate of the All Progressive Congress, the APC, in the forthcoming September 21st governorship election in Edo State. We hold him in high esteem as a distinguished and serving senator. So the error, as I said, is highly regretted, and appropriate sanctions is being meted.
Well, we're not done with the issue of security. The Finnish government has been asked to repatriate the Finland-based leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, that's Simon Ekpa, over the insecurity and operation of gunmen in the southeast region. This is coming from the Edo State Governor, Mr. Peter Mba, while receiving members of the House of Representatives Committee on National Security and Intelligence, who were on an oversight working visit to the state.
I want to also take this opportunity to call on our people to disregard this threat, disregard him and his threat, right? We have demonstrated our capacity to provide security for our people, and we will continue to do so through the help of the security agencies. We cannot be intimidated. We cannot submit ourselves to this siege atmosphere he wants to create in the Southeast. Our people are hardworking people. They are known for their hard work. We treasure our hardworking, and we would continue to do so. You cannot love a people, and all you do is the very essence of their existence. You want to pull it from them, okay? And then claim you love them, claim you're fighting for. This is just for him to grow his followership, gaining cheap publicity. But, it's surprising that the Finnish government allows this man to reside peacefully in their home country and, perpetrating terrorism in Nigeria. And I think that this is something your committee may have to wade into and see how this guy can be repatriated and be brought to justice, because this is a murderer. Through his statements, through his actions, a lot of people have died, and he continues in that trajectory. And so this is a tragedy that we must all work as a country to end.
And more stories now. After polling a total of over 20,000 votes to defeat his major opponent, Mr. Tobena Erojikwe, who polled 10,000 votes. Mr. Afamosigwe, a senior advocate of Nigeria, has been elected as the 32nd president of the Nigerian Bar Association. The inauguration of the new president and other national officers is scheduled to take place during the NBA 2024 annual conference in Lagos between August 23rd and 28th. The president of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has called for an independent investigation by the leadership of the House of Representatives into the quality of diesel in Nigerian market and compared them to those from his refinery. Mr. Dangote was speaking while hosting members of the lower chamber on the tour of the refinery in Lagos.
This is really very disheartening when people keep talking about all this monopoly. Monopoly, is this only when you stop people, you block them through legal means or whatever. No, it's a, level playing field where whatever Dangote was given, okay, in cement, for example, okay, other people too were given. In the refinery, we did not, and I repeat, we did not collect one single incentive from the federal government of Nigeria, or from even the Lagos State of Nigeria. Yes, Lagos State, maybe they gave us a good deal, but we paid $100 million for the land. It wasn't a free land. We paid for it, okay? So people are always looking at the different, other side. They are not really looking at the real picture. So just for the fact that, yes, we're ready and about to start this, everybody is now up and about. Yes, but we know that what is giving us a lot of joy is that we know that the majority of the population, they are with us.
Well, every Nigerian should be aware of their cyber environment and practice cyber hygiene. That's the view of the director of the Nigerian Police National Cybercrime Center, Mr. Ifeanyi Uche. Mr. Uche told Channels Television that although there are increased cases of cybercrime, it is not peculiar to Nigeria. However, most worrying to him is the existence of cybercrime mentoring platforms.
So it's not because of poverty the way I look at it. It's just because an individual wants to go into crime. That is one. And because the tools are readily available all over our nation. And one that is worrisome. Recently we busted cybercrime mentorship school in Abuja, where they will start their criminal activities. So it's a very serious issue. And like the ones we busted, those that are above 18 years were prosecuted. And the underage ones are coming, reporting for what we call the police supervisee. So be able to cancel them, So that is the situation. So it's actually on the increase. But the one thing that is clear that it's not peculiar to Nigeria at all. What we do first is to gather our information, get our intelligence, get enough evidence. Last thing we normally do is to go for arrest. And when we pick up a suspect or a threat actor, the next thing is to charge the suspect to court. Now, we need to understand that for you to be safe online, you need to wash your cyber hands. You need to practice what we call cyber hygiene. You need to understand that for cyber criminal to succeed, you have a role to play in enabling him to succeed or to fail. So you actually have a lot to do in helping yourself. But the most important thing is that we need to wash our cyber hand and we need to be cyber aware.
What interesting perspective, cyber hands, cyber hygiene. Perhaps that's a new one. On the international scene, United States President Joe Biden has ended his re-election campaign and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to succeed him as the Democratic candidate in an already dramatic race for the White House. Mr. Biden said in a written statement that it was the greatest honor to serve, but his withdrawal was, in his words, in the best interests of my party and the country. The announcement caps a tumultuous period in U.S. politics, which began with sometimes incoherent debates, performance against Donald Trump on June 27, 2024. Mr. Biden says he will remain president until January 2025. Well, those are the stories we've been tracking in the past, say, 24 hours and early this morning. And of course, he's going to form part of our conversation for the show and the rest of the day. Kade joins me now to take a look at some of the things you've been talking about on social media, especially on that X.
Absolutely. The weekend notwithstanding, Nigerians always come through. Well, there's a big elephant in the room, and that's about the planned protest, which we'll get into. The presidency has been speaking, state governments have been speaking, opposition and others, Nigerians have been speaking as well. So that's something we're big on the show this morning, particularly as the countdown continues. Well, let's start off with a statement made in River State. And that statement has been causing ripples, essentially. And it's a statement made by the APC caretaker chairman, former chief of staff, Tony Okocha. So I'd like you to listen to what he said, and then we'll take a look at what you are saying about that.
Chief of staff, I gave handouts. I gave. Elections could be written inside Chief of Staff's office. It was done so in my time. We did so. We'll write the results and hand over to the commission. They will just, their business is going to go and announce. And of course, after announcing the results, if you feel aggrieved, you will present before a tribunal. The tribunal is as set up by the state government. They also have their own handouts. Now, the appeal to whatever decision the tribunal takes is at the state high court. They will also have their handout to do. So what will you do is, you will accept your fate. And it is the reason why in all states where they have conducted election.
Multiple indictments there, Jeffrey, as in at different levels.
No, it's not just indictment, multiple admission.
Right, but people indicted as well. Personal indictment, electoral indictment, judiciary indictment, tribunal indictment.
I'm just processing it. Did this man, this gentleman, Tony Okocha, just confess to electoral fraud on television? Is that what this is? Well, let's hear what you're saying, Kade. Yeah, the first one.
Shafi Hamidu is the first on this. He says he needs to be arrested immediately. That's what this user thinks, point blank. He confessed to a crime on national TV. This is jailable offense. Vote manipulation and buying is a crime under the Constitution.
Because people are wondering, does this appear like this is what I'm hearing? Anyway, Ayodiji Kayode says, imagine this kind of testimony, yet no one is getting punished. We still, they play as a nation.
Nero, a lot of people understandably jumped on this. Fine, these are things that we have talked about, brought up. In fact, arrests are made time and again. We have evidence, and people ask, what's happening to prosecution? So, on the one hand, people are not exactly shocked. But with this kind of admission at this level in such a transparent, and accountable manner. Nero says he knows nothing will happen to him after openly admitting to electoral fraud. This is why this user says, he always says, we cannot move forward as a nation with people like this in power. That's what this user has to say on that.
All right,
Umuke
Ogbonna says, it is also important that the truth be told. Okocha became chief of staff in the second tenure of Amechi's reign. Nyesom Wike was the director of campaigns when Amechi ran the second tenure election. Okocha should tell Nigerians which election result he wrote as chief of staff. So I think that's also quite important.
In the spirit of transparency and accountability.
You know, the part that you mentioned as well, he said, look, we give handout to INEC. They just announced
that's electoral fraud.
That's electoral fraud. And then in case you're heading to the tribunal, we also give handout to the people in the judiciary in the state. So you've already lost. So
or even the state high court as well.
So there's no point even doing the election.
But you know, what he was saying on the side is having a rethink to conducting elections at the local government level.
Yes,
so that's
the context.
Yeah, there's a baby and the bathwater, but it looks like we're considering everything together at this point. I don't know if the baby is the admission or the bathwater, but the point is he was trying to say, let's rethink how we approach elections.
You know, there's a call.
Yeah.
There's a call for to amend, I think, Section 197 of the Constitution, so that INEC conducts local government election. Because we've seen elections happen. Gombe, APC, Oyo, PDP,
Delta.
Adamawa, PDP, Delta, PDP. Just yesterday, Ebonyi, APC.
As usual. This next user, I think it's Nick Code 3, says, I don't think this is an old video. No, it's not an old video. It's last week. We just gave you live on Channels Television. Or rather, I don't care. That's what this user said. I don't care if this is an old video or not, but you can't come out openly to confess about getting involved in electoral fraud on national TV and not be punished in accordance with the Nigerian Constitution.
Okay, Emmyzabet_ says, in the same environment, this man would have been picked up by now and arraigned in court. In the Western world, even if he makes this kind of utterances after 30 years, he'll still go to jail. This can only happen in Nigeria.
So that's it about that, at least for now. We'll wait to see how this plays out. So from that, let's move to the National Assembly, particularly the Red Chamber, which we call the Senate. Lots of videos to show you, but perhaps let's just get into the reactions to this one. So we had the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, speaking in the chamber to one of the senators, Senator Natasha. And, one of the things they said is, we're not in a nightclub. So that will give it to you in a moment. As I said, lots of videos to play. But let's skip this one, at least for now, and go over to the big one on Dangote refinery, because it concerns petrol supply in the country, the quality or otherwise, energy security. So Dangote has come out to, will I say respond now?
Yes,
to NMDPRA's claims about the quality.
They don't want to know the level of politics that is playing out. There are so many things Nigerians don't know.
Well, I actually want to know. Maybe I already know.
There are so many things. No, trust me, there are things Nigerians don't know. But there's a lot playing out. And so I've never seen this guy this desperate fighting for his life. $20 billion investment. And there's a threat to it. There are layers to it. So, but we'll just take your reaction. But he was saying he wasn't giving a free meal. He paid for the land. So what incentive did he get from government? People saying he's looking for another monopoly. He's not a good player in a free market. Because the NNDPR man was saying, we want us to direct all the suppliers to you. That's not good for our energy security and all of that. Even talked about the quality of the diesel. He counted and said, my diesel is even of the best quality.
Right as I was speaking, he got results.
He got results,
the latest results.
Because when you talk about what they call the pp and the parts per million, talking about the sulfur content, from the numbers we see, his own appears to be the best. About 80-something, nice, 32. Others are about in their thousands and all of that. And when you talk about the flashpoint, that's to talk about lowest temperature. The minimum is 60. Others are less than that. His own is 98. So there's a lot to talk. So this is my advice. When you're looking at this Dangote story, dissociate your emotion and look at it logically. But let's hear what you're saying. Ajisola Enterprise says, what about money from federal government, 1 billion loan? I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from.
I know what you're talking about, but you know that the government didn't come through really on its own end, balancing that money. So that's why Dangote came out and said, well, it's not the 20% you people thought, it's actually 7%.
Okay, let's help them contextualize that. So there's a share agreement, when the government approach, I want to get 20% from you. to be part of the refinery. But there's what we call pay of equity, which you have to pay within a certain period.
Exactly.
They paid initial money,
but they didn't meet up.
They didn't meet up those pay up they didn't pay up those equity, and then that's why he came out to say when the Gwoza started, sorry, your 20% is not 20%, it's 70. In fact, that one you're owing me, forget, Seth.
And there's also the crude supply part. Well, yeah. Zama Omar says, why the sabotage? Why is all this witch hunt happening now? I think you meant to say, who are these cabals in the oil sector? Are they unknown people? Lots of questions from this user. Let us know the enemies of the nation, because whoever is sabotaging the Dangote refinery is sabotaging the state.
Oluwafemi says, I hope FG looks for lasting solution to the economic crisis in Nigeria ASAP, because both the rich and the poor are suffering from the policies that the government is setting for both small-scale and large-scale businesses.
Particularly because they said that, well, I bought the land, particularly in Lagos, for, $100 million. So this user says, I might be overreacting, but I don't see how paying for land and not collecting any incentive from both federal and state governments addresses the issue of monopoly. Probably he was speaking on the issue of sabotage or something else, but definitely not monopoly.
All right, Kerry Black says, is he not supposed to pay for the land, or is he selling cement or any other product for Lagos State on different prices?
Well, the thing about issues like this, when they blow up, everybody gets a piece of the action, throws in their 2 cents. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. But the big picture, we shouldn't lose sight of it, is the fact that we need petrol prices to come down, so at least it can reduce the economic hardship.
We're actually counting down to the August date that Mele Kyari, from his words, from his mouth to our listening ear, he told Nigerians that by August, Port Harcourt refinery should start working.
Dangote also says August as well.
Yeah, he said, yes, Dangote said for PMS. Yeah. It was July, but because
it's
of the
been moved to August as well.
August. So
we'll have August visitors.
August visitors, we should be expecting. So he said, he had to say, I'm not lying. I mean, Mele Kyari. So we're watching you, Mele, and all your team.
Absolutely.
We need to see those PMS roll out from that refinery.
Well, you saw earlier on that the reinstated deputy governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, has now defected to the APC. But what was sad about the turn of events is the death of the policeman, the violence that erupted in Benin City. So he's since defected now. A lot of people saw this coming. But what do you have to say? Well, this user is congratulating Philip Shaibu on his defection to the All Progressives Congress. I'm guessing that favorite Bolivia is an APC member, because this user says you are welcome. So,
and it's okay. Whatever party you belong to is fine. Black Shock Soji says, so both government and deputy are in different parties. Isn't this great? Philip has shown himself.
Well, this user, Sonda Jacob, is asking Mr. Shaibu to return, or rather, let me take this again. He says, return to APC and still wants to be deputy governor using Abuja courts. This is laughable, as it is now. Governor is PDP, deputy APC, funny. So it's funny, actually, when you put the context, Abuja courts. But yeah, maybe you're talking about the location being in Abuja, and that's it. But there you have it from that user.
So there's a lot going on as far as that Edo State issue is concerned. He won the case. I was reading part of the judgment yesterday. This is the original CTC. And now the state government has appealed the case, even filed for stay of execution. The argument as to whether stay of execution should make him hold off on his action. There's a lot of legalese and arguments.
The stay of execution, has it been granted?
Well, there's an argument. I spoke to a senior advocate of Nigeria. It looks like they are divided on this. On one hand, it mustn't be for the fact that it's filed in court, it can hold. Others say it must be granted. So that's the lawyer's argument. It's not my argument. So for the fact, some say if it's filed and all of that. So where do we go? Where do we go next?
Let's go to the National Assembly. That statement made by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, while he was speaking in the chamber. We'd like to listen to it, and then we'll give you reactions of Nigerians.
I don't want the bill killed, but it should be slight modifications, sir. It's a necessary bill.
The civil senator, Natasha, in the chamber, you have to be recognized before you speak.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah, we are not in a nightclub. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye.
There you go. So that elicited lots of reactions, particularly when the Senate President said, this is not a nightclub.
And
or we're not in a nightclub. But yeah, essentially that's what he said. And that was speaking to Senator Natasha Akpoti. So there are different things here. There are the rules of a Senate that speaks to how you can speak in the chamber, what the procedure is, right? But then there's also the way the Senate president said it, and that, of course, angered a lot of people. So
yeah, the women are angry. They said that statement by Senator Godswill Akpabio was sexist. That's why it is. I've seen women group literally saying he has to apologize. But if it was a man who said that, he said he will not make that statement. Why did he say it to a woman and all of that? Well, let's find out what the people are saying. Ben Samuel, Flourish 007, that's your handle. Even after she acknowledged her mistake and apologized, you wouldn't say such a thing to a male colleague. Okay, this is a sexist comment and he should apologize. I'm always concerned whenever he speaks.
Well, Noah is next, says the Senate president, that's what SP means. The Senate president should apologize to the distinguished Senator Natasha. Electric voting should be the new order of voting in chambers like this. Well, I think that's also another angle to this one. Electronic voting should be a way to go.
All right, IO133 says the speaker, is he speaker? That should be the Senate president, was unprofessional to say such humiliating words. I guess that's what he wanted to say to her. She acknowledged her mistake, then apologized when obvious he just wanted to show, she calls it toxic masculinity. Says a shame.
So, well, there looks to be, or seems to be some consistency with the reaction. So, let's move finally to what's playing out in the United States. I mean, President Joe Biden's tweet alone got dozens of millions of views yesterday. Almost broke the internet, Jeffrey, the moment he announced that he was stepping down from the race, standing down, essentially. It's reminiscent of what former President Donald Trump said during that incident. So Joe Biden has stepped down now and he's since, well, endorsed the Vice President Kamala Harris. Step down from the race.
Let's be clear.
Which I said earlier on. Step down from the race, just to be clear. So we see this one from Barnacle says, we're sad to see Joe step down, but we're happy you nominated your vice president just like Obama nominated and stood behind you to defeat Donald Trump in 2020. Kamala Harris has huge shoes to fill, but she's more than capable of defeating Donald Trump and saving democracy. So obviously this user is from the United States.
All right, this is a Nigerian, Carol Burris. I had to check again because that doesn't sound like this. You're a good and blessed man. I can't imagine how hard this has been for you. Once again, you have shown our nation what a true leader really is. You brought us back, of course, from chaos of Trump, and in your quiet way, made incredible progress. God bless you, and thank you for all you have given to America. I wanted to be, because this sounded like an American name, so that's why I say yes.
If you're a Nigerian tweeting about this, it's okay, by the way. But of course, people will say, we have bigger fish to fry here in Nigeria. But you understand, whatever plays out in the United States will naturally affect global politics. You can see world leaders reacting, actually.
Yes.
This is not even the election. In fact, the Democratic Party...
Has any African leader reacted? I would like to see the African leaders.
Jeffrey, don't put me in that position.
Yeah, no. It's clear,
the Democratic
Party... Because we said the African leaders have left that WhatsApp group.
Of course.
The African leaders don't resign. Even if they are dying, they don't resign.
Come on, Jay. Even the Democratic Party, they've not held their convention officially. So we'll see how this plays out. Will other candidates now step up and try to contest against Kamala Harris, or would everybody stand down and just allow her pass through? Don't forget, Joe Biden is 81 years, so some people thought this was a no-brainer. But those are the major trends that we have for you right now, Jeff.
Yes.
At least for now. So but keep those comments coming in. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief or on our WhatsApp.
All right, so we're going to have loads of conversation, and it's because you are interested in that conversation. We'll take this quick break. When we come back, we'll get up with the very first one. Join us again.
And what a weekend it was of conversations, some of them bordering on this first segment for today. And you know that the indicators are not looking good, with food inflation at 34.1% and food inflation rather at 40.9%, and inflation, headline inflation at 34.1%. One wonders whether these figures on paper are playing out in reality, with calls for protests in the land and, of course, efforts by the subnationals, to stave off these protests. And these calls for protests haven't come without some allegations. So we're examining the state of the polity this morning within the context of allegations of some persons sponsoring those protests. And joining us to have this conversation this morning, we have Mr. Yunusa Tanko, who is the spokesperson of the Obidati campaign organization during the 2023 presidential election. Mr. Tanko, good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning to you.
We know that one of the presidential spokespersons has leveled allegations against the presidential candidate of your party in the 2023 presidential election of sponsoring or leading calls for protests and sponsoring those protests. And you've had cause to respond to them over the weekend as well, saying that those allegations are to set up Mr. Peter Obi for arrest, and they are not true. But if we looked critically at those allegations, there were some names that were named with particular reference to those who were sympathetic to your candidate during the presidential election, and with videos of youths in some parts of the country printing shirts tagged "End Bad Governance." So I want you to look critically. I know that you may have seen that tweet by Mr. Bayo Onunuga. I want you to look critically at those names mentioned, and perhaps debunk the allegations within the proper context of those names that were mentioned.
I am glad that you mentioned that the campaign organization has been over and then been done and dusted with. That gives you a clarity to individuals. This is not a campaign by individuals. Every person as a Nigerian has a right, its inalienable right, as enshrined by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly Section 40 as amended. So we are not in a campaign season. So you cannot assert or associate every individual how to speak his or his own mind to a very issue that concerns every Nigeria belonging to a particular person. Let me go back a little bit into a little bit of history. In 2017, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was seen in the video chanting and campaigning, talking about bad governance. Even as at that time, he was not the presidential candidate of the APC, but he was talking about bad governance and corruption and stealing. And he said, and I quote, I can send you the video, that you should push them out. They have stolen your grandchildren funds. They have stolen money from the central bank. They even stole the ports. They did not leave anything. And that was his personal position as a person. Now, here is a presidential candidate who contested election in 2023. Even at that time, he had a very strong movement of die-hard supporters who were ready to bring out the walls down to say that this particular election did not meet the normal threshold. But here is the catch. President, His Excellency Peter Obi did not by any strata of any action, advise or support anybody to go onto the streets, to even bring down the wall or even attack INEC. That's exemplifying the quality of a Democrat that His Excellency Peter Obi is. And I'm bold to say that at the last Democracy Day, right in the villa there, Comrade Shehu Sani who happened to be one of the leaders of those who fought for democracy, including my humble self, said clearly to the president that you are one of the persons, you are the grand patron of protests, that you even sponsor members to go in and protest. Now today, some of these particular individuals are already ganged up, if in the prison yard. You should please release them, because you know that protest is part of the democratic right of every Nigerian. So in this particular case, with all reference, you cannot in any way assert or even credibly say that because such individuals have been seen to be part of a campaign, now they do not have right to make their position as Nigerians. So it is their own individual rights. As I can tell you authoritatively, His Excellency Peter Gregory Obi will not support anybody to go into any kind of protest, except, of course, as it's been enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but he has nothing to do with it. It's even insulting to Nigerians to say that they cannot take a decision on their own, except if they are being prompted by an individual. Are we saying that it is His Excellency Peter Obi who goes to the market and differentiate the prices of bag of rice at the cost of 80,000 naira to 3,500 naira during the President Jonathan era? Or is it the same person who goes into the market to buy a bag of rice, which used to cost 1,500 naira to now about 60 to 7,000 naira, which is the basic food, staple food that Northerners eat? Or are we saying that he is the same person who jack up the prices of transportation from point A to point B? Or are we saying that he was the one who is in government that put this particular roads, our Nigerian road from even Benin to Abuja, that is in a deplorable state?
Mr. Tanko, let's manage our time, because my colleagues are waiting to ask questions. I want you to, perhaps disown these handles that have been mentioned and say confidently that if investigations were conducted, they would not be found to have any links with the Obidati organization or Mr. Peter Obi, who is your boss. These handles mentioned by Mr. Bayo Onuga, the PTM, Peter Obi's first son, FS Yusuf, Babatunde Gbadamosi, who has sympathies with the Labour Party.
No, I can tell you authoritatively, those are individuals. Yes, they were part of the campaign as individuals during the campaign, and I've already told you that. But as it is now, they are ordinary, they were not in the campaign. So you cannot associate them with that. Now, let me give you an example. Even within the APC, as we speak right now, those market women in Lagos who are chanting, Ebin Pawao, Ebin Pawao, can you not say that they were part of the people who campaigned for the APC presidency? All those, my brothers in the north, Hausa communities and leaders and malams who are chanting for this particular issue of protest, who are saying that Akwe Yunwa, are they all members of the Labour Party or associated to Peter Obi? This is, in fact, what they are doing is that they are just looking for a dog to give it a bad name in order to hang it. But I can tell you for sure, it will not sell. What they are simply doing is that they are making His Excellency more popular to the people, because there was no time in anywhere. You can check it and see where Peter Obi or any of his personal colleagues who have been working with him or support or say that you should go onto the streets. No, that is not the line of argument for him. He has always been an individual who is interested in debates who have to do with basic needs of the Nigerian people. Here I'm talking about issues that concerns you with issues of electricity, power, health, and all. So there are issue-based debates that he enjoys doing. And you cannot fault him, because there's nowhere that you can say he has seen him associated as giving directive, go and do this. No. So go and do your verification. And please, when you finish your verification, be humble enough to say an apology to His Excellency for trying to associate him with issue of violence, when you know there is a level of ineptitudeness and inexperience and lack of performance of this particular government that has brought this particular ills to the society, which is totally cannot be accepted by any well-meaning Nigerian. So it has nothing to do with His Excellency Peter Obi, but every Nigerian, as I said, has a right to make his voice known. It's part of the democratic process.
All right, Mr. Tanko, absolutely, you made your strong point, but let's also say that we reached out to the federal government, to their spokesperson, to at least come on the program to have their say as far as this is concerned. We didn't get the reply, or rather, they couldn't make it to the program. My apologies, they couldn't make it to the program. So I'm sure that at some point they would join us, maybe in the course of the week, to also come out to say why exactly they mentioned a few names as far as this is concerned. So I needed to pause it that quickly. Mr. Tanko, so if Mr. Peter Obi and your team, I'm sure you feel strongly disappointed by what happened, what action are you willing to take if there's no apology rendered as far as this issue is concerned?
Let me give you an example of Sheikh Mahmoud Gumi. Sheikh Mahmoud Gumi is a known Malam Sheikh in the northern part. He usually gives his sermon at the Sultan Bello Mosque. Now, one of his opponents in the other sect was planted, and he came to the mosque, and he said to him frontally, he made sure he sat down very close to the Malam. He said to him, "Today you are no more a Muslim." Of course, because of the large number of his followers, we have expected that they will have bounced on him and dealt with him or telling the Malam that he is no more a Muslim. That was a frontal attack. But here is what he said to him. He said, "Okay, thank you very much. What do I do to go back to Islam?" He now said, "You have to do the kalma shahada. You say, La ilaha illallah." And he said, "La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah." Am I now a Muslim? The man said, "Yes." So let's continue with our preaching. So in this case, I'm making reference to His Excellency. He all no grudges as to regard to whether you accuse him or you call him name. But one thing you have to know is that he played a very fine and refined politics, which they in the other side cannot do. Because I remember with nostalgia, during President Jonathan era, there was nothing that they did not call President Goodluck Jonathan. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is on record. He called President Jonathan a drunken fisherman. He was on record. I do not say it. They made posters. They even made coffin of the president. But did you see the gentleman say anything? Today, where is President Goodluck Jonathan? He's one of the most revered and most respected citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And he speaks freely. In fact, in the whole world, they recognize him. So that is the kind of person that Peter Obi epitomized. He epitomized cleanness. He shows capacity. Go back a little bit into a little bit of history. In 2017, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was seen in the video chanting and campaigning, talking about bad governance. Even as at that time, he was not the presidential candidate of the APC, but he was talking about bad governance and corruption and stealing. And he said, and I quote, I can send you the video, that you should push them out. They have stolen your grandchildren funds. They have stolen money from the central bank. They even stole the ports. They did not leave anything. And that was his personal position as a person. Now here is a presidential candidate who contested election in 2023. Even at that time, he had a very strong movement of die-hard supporters who were ready to bring out the walls down to say that this particular election did not meet the normal threshold. But here is the catch. President, His Excellency Peter Obi did not by any strata of any action, advise or support anybody to go onto the streets, to even bring down the wall or even attack INEC. That's exemplifying the quality of a Democrat that His Excellency Peter Obi is. And I'm bold to say that at the last Democracy Day, right in the villa there, Comrade Shehu Sani, who happened to be one of the leaders of those who fought for democracy, including my humble self, said clearly to the president that you are one of the persons, you are the grand patron of protests, that you even sponsor members to go in and protest. Now today, some of these particular individuals are already ganged up, if in the prison yard. You should please release them, because you know that protest is part of the democratic right of every Nigerian. So in this particular case, with all reference, you cannot in any way assert or even credibly say that because such individuals have been seen to be part of a campaign, now they do not have right to make their position as Nigerians. So it is their own individual rights. As I can tell you authoritatively, His Excellency Peter Gregory Obi will not support anybody to go into any kind of protest, except, of course, as it's been enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but he has nothing to do with it. It's even insulting to Nigerians to say that they cannot take a decision on their own, except if they are being prompted by an individual. Are we saying that it is His Excellency Peter Obi who goes to the market and differentiate the prices of bag of rice at the cost of 80,000 naira to 3,500 naira during the President Jonathan era? Or is it the same person who goes into the market to buy a bag of rice, which used to cost 1,500 naira to now about 60 to 7,000 naira, which is the basic food, staple food that Northerners eat? Or are we saying that he is the same person who jack up the prices of transportation from point A to point B? Or are we saying that he was the one who is in government that put this particular roads, our Nigerian road from even Benin to Abuja, that is in a deplorable state?
Mr. Tanko, let's manage our time, because my colleagues are waiting to ask questions. I want you to, perhaps disown these handles that have been mentioned and say confidently that if investigations were conducted, they would not be found to have any links with the Obidati organization or Mr. Peter Obi, who is your boss. These handles mentioned by Mr. Bayo Onunuga, the PTM, Peter Obi's first son, FS Yusuf, Babatunde Gbadamosi, who has sympathies with the Labour Party.
No, I can tell you authoritatively, those are individuals. Yes, they were part of the campaign as individuals during the campaign, and I've already told you that. But as it is now, they are ordinary, they were not in the campaign. So you cannot associate them with that. Now, let me give you an example. Even within the APC, as we speak right now, those market women in Lagos who are chanting, Ebin Pawao, Ebin Pawao, can you not say that they were part of the people who campaigned for the APC presidency? All those, my brothers in the north, Hausa communities and leaders and malams who are chanting for this particular issue of protest, who are saying that Akwe Yunwa, are they all members of the Labour Party or associated to Peter Obi? This is, in fact, what they are doing is that they are just looking for a dog to give it a bad name in order to hang it. But I can tell you for sure, it will not sell. What they are simply doing is that they are making His Excellency more popular to the people, because there was no time in anywhere. You can check it and see where Peter Obi or any of his personal colleagues who have been working with him or support or say that you should go onto the streets. No, that is not the line of argument for him. He has always been an individual who is interested in debates who have to do with basic needs of the Nigerian people. Here I'm talking about issues that concerns you with issue of electricity, power, health, and all. So there are issue-based debates that he enjoys doing. And you cannot fault him, because you have nowhere that you can say he has seen him associated as giving directive, go and do this. No. So go and do your verification. And please, when you finish your verification, be humble enough to say an apology to His Excellency for trying to associate him with issue of violence when you know there is a level of ineptitudeness and inexperience and lack of performance of this particular government that has brought this particular ills to the society, which is totally cannot be accepted by any well-meaning Nigerian. So it has nothing to do with His Excellency Peter Obi, but every Nigerian, as I said, has a right to make his voice known. It's part of the democratic process.
All right, Mr. Tanko, absolutely, you made your strong point, but let's also say that we reached out to the federal government, to their spokesperson, to at least come on the program to have their say as far as this is concerned. We didn't get the reply, or rather, they couldn't make it to the program. My apologies, they couldn't make it to the program. So I'm sure that at some point they would join us, maybe in the course of the week, to also come out to say why exactly they mentioned a few names as far as this is concerned. So I needed to pause it that quickly. Mr. Tanko, so if Mr. Peter Obi and your team, I'm sure you feel strongly disappointed by what happened, what action are you willing to take if there's no apology rendered as far as this issue is concerned?
Let me give you an example of Sheikh Mahmoud Gumi. Sheikh Mahmoud Gumi is a known Malam Sheikh in the northern part. He usually gives his sermon at the Sultan Bello Mosque. Now, one of his opponents in the other sect was planted, and he came to the mosque, and he said to him frontally, he made sure he sat down very close to the Malam. He said to him, "Today you are no more a Muslim." Of course, because of the large number of his followers, we have expected that they will have bounced on him and dealt with him or telling the Malam that he is no more a Muslim. That was a frontal attack. But here is what he said to him. He said, "Okay, thank you very much. What do I do to go back to Islam?" He now said, "You have to do the kalma shahada. You say, La ilaha illallah." And he said, "La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah." Am I now a Muslim? The man said, "Yes." So let's continue with our preaching. So in this case, I'm making reference to His Excellency. He owes no grudges as to regard to whether you accuse him or you call him name. But one thing you have to know is that he played a very fine and refined politics, which they in the other side cannot do. Because I remember with nostalgia, during President Jonathan era, there was nothing that they did not call President Goodluck Jonathan. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is on record. He called President Jonathan a drunken fisherman. He was on record. I do not say it. They made posters. They even made coffin of the president. But did you see the gentleman say anything? Today, where is President Goodluck Jonathan? He's one of the most revered and most respected citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And he speaks freely. In fact, in the whole world, they recognize him. So that is the kind of person that Peter Obi epitomized. He epitomized cleanness. He shows capacity.
What are your thoughts on some of these efforts put in place by the government, to tackle these challenges and in the long term, bring down the cost of food?
With all due respect, the government have been seen, and allegedly so, not to be telling the truth. They have been economical with the truth to the people. With all due respect, I'm not insulting anybody, but they lie a lot. So Nigerians have come to a point they are no more ready to condone all of those particular lies. They promised them a lot of things, yet they did not do anything. They've given a lot of time for them to make correction. They have not done so. Nigerians are not crying about increase of petroleum today. They have been crying about it from day one. They're not crying about the increase of commodities. They have been crying about it for a very long time. This is over a year now. They have been crying about bad rules, yet nothing has been done. So they have been crying about the high level of prices of commodity, including school fees and insecurity, for a very long time. Yet now they have not done anything. And so therefore they are tired of all of this. What the government will do is not making promises on the basis of television and radios, telling them we will do A, B, C, D. So when you put your arms guard down, we will just continue as normal, as nothing has happened. So as a government, don't say it act it. Be actionable. Do what you promise that you want to do right now. That's what Nigerians want to see. If today, Nigerian government is strong enough to use every mechanism so possible within its means to say, today, we have brought down the prices of petrol from 780,000 naira or 700 or 800,000 naira, 800 naira as the case may be. We have mandated that prices should be brought down to 100 naira. That is action. And that will show that they are ready to change. If the Nigerian government say today, I have moved Beja, I have moved C&C, I have moved everybody, go to Benin or the road, start working on those particular roads now, and people are seeing it, that is action. If the Nigerian government say, look, let's work on Abuja, Kaduna Road, which is the only link road from the south, from the seat of power to the northern part of the country, and you see people working. As today, when you pass through that road is not motorable. You now put those particular people on. That is action. That is what Nigerian. That are things that Nigerians want to see, not promises that cannot be put on place. Let them do what affect the Nigerian people, the simple things that they need. That is what they want to see, but not when they wake up in the morning. The next thing that you hear. Billions of nairas have been shifted. Even some of the billions, the president of the Senate cannot even pronounce them because there are so much. Yet the Senate is collecting plenty money, 50 million, 30 million to themselves alone. And we, those people that voted for them, cannot go home with just 30,000 naira or 40,000 naira. Right. Come on.
All right, Mr. Tanko, you know, one wonders, because your candidate had also campaigned on the removal of fuel subsidy. So one can't help but wonder if we'll also be at this point if your candidate had won the election. But don't respond to that. I want to thank you very much for your time. Dr. Yunusa Tanko is the chief spokesperson, Obi Dati organization. Thank you very much for your time.
My predecessor wouldn't have gone through this route. He will have provided succor by building.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Yunusa. And we're hoping that the representative of government will join us subsequently to respond to some of the allegations that they had made. Mr. Jiringalali, to be precise, we hope he will join us, if not today, maybe in the course of the week. And so we switch themes now to look at happenings outside Nigeria, in the United States of America, to be precise, following the stepping down, not from the presidency now, but from the presidential campaign by President of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden. That'll be after this time out. Join us again.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden is no more in the race. Well, he's still in government, of course, but he's no more in the race to be the next president of the United States. So he's staying at the 46th president. Now, he's endorsed his vice, almost deja vu playing out now, his vice, Kamala Harris, to be the candidate eventually for the Democratic Party and vie for the presidential election. It's still a couple of weeks, months to the main action, but this has obviously changed the outlook of the build-up to the election and the outcome of that election. Talk about global politics experiencing a major shift. But we have joining us on the program this morning someone who can help us understand what is playing out here and what to expect. Mr. Adebayo Oluwake is a global affairs analyst, and he joins us virtually this morning. Hey, welcome to the Morning Brief, Mr. Oluwake.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
I want to start from, well, this one. So a lot of people, it was obvious to a lot of people, he's 81. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you're in the civil service, you shouldn't be in the corridors of office. Talk more of right there in the middle of it. So for a lot of people, this was a no-brainer. But then seeing that he took a while to take this decision, and people are applauding him and saying, well, this must have been a tough decision to make. Well done. Was it really a tough decision to make, really?
Yes, I think for President Biden, it was a tough decision. The reason being that he would most likely have been looking at what kind of legacy he would like to leave behind, the first. And then secondly, usually in the United States, as you know, most presidents often go for a second term. It's rare to have a president who would not go for a second term. So if you don't go for a second term, it's like not normal. So I think for those two reasons, this will have been a tough decision for him. For you and I who were watching from afar, this should have been, like you said, a no-brainer, because it's not more about his health. Sorry, it's not more about his age, but it's actually about his health. And, you know, we've seen President Biden falter several times when he had to address public gatherings. We've seen him, you know, lose focus. We've seen him forget things, you know, and for the President of the United States, who has the powers, not just to declare war, but also to order the detonation of atomic weapons. This was becoming frightening, not just for the world, but for Americans themselves. And I think for us, therefore, looking from afar, it shouldn't have been a difficult decision. But for him, looking at his legacy and looking at the tradition in the United States, where presidents often went for second terms, of course, it was a difficult decision.
So I'm wondering, sir, is this going to be he's endorsed Kamala Harris, of course, but we haven't seen that endorsement as well from Barack Obama. The party is a bit divided at some level and united at some level when you talk about the top Dems, especially in Congress. How easy will it be for the party to now decide on nominating Kamala Harris to, you know, see how she can slug it out with Donald Trump?
You've just asked me the most difficult question, but I'll try to answer it from two perspectives. First of all, exactly what you asked, and then secondly, just look a little bit into history. First of all, the party normally gives a ticket to an incumbent president. The second-term ticket is usually given to an incumbent president. And so I think President Biden, now not having pulled out, is essentially trying to keep that tradition going, even though Kamala Harris is not an incumbent president, but she's the vice. But by President Biden pulling out and then endorsing Kamala Harris, he's trying to say, hey guys, you wanted me out of the race, now I'm out of the race, but you have to give me something back in return. I get to nominate who should replace me. This is the way I interpret it. So he brings in Vice President Harris, you know, trying to put the party back under pressure in order for the party to concede something to him. Now, how easy will it be to nominate, to give the ticket to Vice President Kamala Harris? For now, this is still in the realm of speculation. We have had now, if I go back to history, we have had only 2 incidents like this in the history of the United States. One happened in 1952 when President Harry Truman, who replaced President Roosevelt, you know, became president after President Roosevelt died. And then Harry Truman pulled out of the presidential elections, having gotten the ticket. You know, I mean, sorry, he hadn't gotten the ticket, but it was taken for granted that he was going to get it. So, but he pulled out of the election because there were so many reports that his candidature was not going down well with Americans. Remember that it was President Truman who detonated atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end the Second World War. And while that stopped Japan, apparently Americans were very uncomfortable with the fact that atomic weapons were used, right? Truman did a lot of good things as well. He set up the IMF, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Marshall Plan that rebuilt Europe after the war. But I think Americans were very, very uncomfortable with the fact that they used atomic weapons. And so he was quite unpopular, and it was told that he was not likely to win, so he pulled out. Now, Lyndon Johnson also pulled out of the race in 1968. Now, the interesting thing about all of this is that when President Truman pulled out of the race, he was replaced by a governor, Adlai Stevenson, you know, and then Stevenson unfortunately lost the election to President Dwight Eisenhower. And then when Johnson pulled out of the race, he was replaced by Hubert Humphrey. Hubert Humphrey was quite popular, but nonetheless, he lost to Richard Nixon. Now, the interesting thing about this is that both of them, Harry Truman and Lyndon Johnson, were both Democrats, and their replacements lost the subsequent elections. So I don't know if this will play in the minds of the Democrats as they go to their convention starting on August 19, and whether with this weight of history, so to speak, on their conscience, they will be confident to give the ticket to Vice President Kamala Harris.
And speaking of sentiments in the camp of the Democrats, some say that Vice President Harris comes with the experience of having been VP and, of course, having access to campaign funds, you know, during this presidential campaign before Biden stepped down, and that she also comes with sharp debating skills as well to stand up to Trump. But the question is, can she, you know, overcome the sentiments of gender, racism, and sexism? And will she be able to make history as the first ever female president of the United States?
Yeah, those are very good indices for us to ponder. I believe that Vice President Harris does have this advantage, truly, that she's been in the White House for close to 4 years. She studied President Biden closely. But while that is an advantage, don't forget that there are those who would also say that she shares in whatever problems or weaknesses the administration may have faced or may have, you know, having been in the White House for close to 4 years. For instance, she's been accused of not having handled the immigration issue very well. And you know that the immigration issue is something former President Trump is actually playing up seriously in the US now. If you watch the Republican convention, he made so much out of so many illegal people crossing the border, rapists and criminals from other countries and so on and so forth. And so that's something Vice President Harris will have to deal with. Secondly, there's the Ukrainian problem. The immigration issue is a domestic issue. The Ukrainian issue is an international one, foreign policy-wise. And not a few people in the US believe that while it was good to support Ukraine, the United States has not set any benchmarks and has not set any objectives. Even if you looked at the former Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, he himself asked the question in public, and he said, what would victory look like for Ukraine? That the armed forces do not like to have ambiguous orders. They have to have specific orders. And he was translating that into the political class for them to ponder, what will victory look like? We are giving everything to Ukraine, but what do we want Ukraine to achieve for us to be persuaded that we have achieved our objective? Up till as you and I speak this morning, there are no clear benchmarks on the side of NATO as to what victory would look like, especially when the Russians are controlling over 100,000 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory. So VP Kamala Harris would also have to deal with that. Now, looking at her strengths, yes, she was an attorney, general of the state of California. She's a very good prosecutor, or she was, and therefore she's a very good debater, because you cannot be an effective prosecutor if you cannot debate, efficiently. So this is one major strength people feel that the VP would have if she was their candidate and if she did take on President Trump. But we'll see exactly how this plays out. But I think that on the whole, the fact that she was a former prosecutor and the fact that she's just, I think, 3 percentage points behind President Trump could be the strength that she will bring onto the ticket if she is given the mandate to run.
So I imagine former President Trump coming up with new, will I call it nicknames now that it's likely going to be Kamala Harris. So no more Sleepy Joe or Crooked this. I imagine what it would look like or what it would sound like. But the point I'm trying to make is the game plan or the strategy obviously has to change now. But I want you to speak to this. So there's a global politics part. Is America also trying to get its act right? America is challenged on different fronts. So speak to this. Is this a master stroke in the real sense of it, or a master flop disguised as a master stroke? Some people think, it's now very easy for Trump to win something. Well, this was a good semi-last card if you play cards very well. So what do you think it is? A master stroke in itself, in reality, or master flop disguised as a master stroke?
Okay, let's look at the master stroke. It would be a master stroke for the Democrats to have a seamless transition in the National Convention. And this would probably be the biggest, strength for them because they want to avoid division and rancor. And so there's that group within the Democrats who feel if we give the ticket to Kamala Harris, straightforward, we won't have any rancor. It will just be seamless and we can immediately get a momentum and go after Trump. Now, a master flop would be how they manage this convention. Because we know that there are several candidates also, I cannot reel off their names now off the top of my head, but there are several candidates who have indicated that they want to challenge for the presidential ticket. And the question would be, if you take the master stroke of having a seamless convention and just going straight to Chicago and giving the ticket to Harris, how will those guys take it? Remember that when the Democratic establishment gave the ticket to Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders, who was the most popular choice, especially of young people, the young people did not turn out to vote. And even though Hillary Clinton still had 3 million votes more than Trump, she didn't have enough electoral colleges, and therefore she lost the election to President Trump. So if you give this ticket to Kamala Harris, and of course, it comes out as a master stroke because you eliminate disgruntled people, problems, campaigns, divisions, and so on. Not knowing how those who genuinely wanted to also give it a shot would react may not be known until the day of the election. And if they go the way that the young people did when Bernie Sanders wasn't given the ticket, even though he was the most popular candidate, the Democrats might just be in for a very big surprise. And Trump might easily coast to victory. Now, on the Trump side, I think the biggest shot that President Trump had, and it's rather unfortunate, was the fact that there was an attempted assassination on his life. So that he survived that good enough, and then it has given him a momentum. That has really given Trump a momentum. That has given him some sympathy, even on the side of those who normally don't like Trump. And if you look at the Republican convention, and if you watched President Trump at that convention, he looked like a different President Trump. He was not brash, he was not brutish, he was not vindictive. He allowed Nikki Haley and all his other opponents with whom he had very sharp disagreements to come onto the podium and address the convention. He's been seen lately with a lot of pictures with African Americans trying to project a different Trump. He started saying, look, this is God who saved me. He's been playing up the religious card. And so I feel strongly that at this moment, President Trump has a strong momentum. How that will play out, of course, we don't know because the two parties essentially are struggling for voters who haven't made up their minds. But let's see what will happen, whether all of this for the Democrats will be a master stroke or a master flop.
You seem to be implying that former President Trump is now born again with that near-death experience. But clearly, very interesting weeks and months to witness. And of course, for the good of global politics, we hope it turns out well. And of course, turns out well for us here in Nigeria. But I'd like to thank you so much. You provided such brilliant insight into the recent happenings. We're speaking with global affairs analyst, Mr. Adebayo Oluwake, on this latest development in the U.S. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you for having me.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll talk about the devices you have in your pocket. Some even have like 5 on them right now. How are we handling tech? What are some of the things we should look out for? Opportunities, dangers. Well, MissTechy joins us on the show. Stay with us.
Toby Ayeni joins us. She's MissTechy, and she's going to walk us through all of the things you just watched. Welcome to the program,
Thank
Toby.
you so much for having me. I'm delighted.
It's always exciting to see women do things that, you know, we usually associate with men. Well, so tell me.
I would not really classify it as a gender thing. I mean, exactly. I just grew into it. My parents introduced me to tech at an early stage, so it just became part of me. So I don't really see it as it's a lady thing or it's a guy thing. Yes, I feel it's open to everybody.
For people, sometimes people hear tech and like, I'm not ready for this. I had an exposure to computing and coding. I remember when we were coding, like, one of the things I hated the most, I love database management system coding. But one of the things I hated the most, the fact that I write lines of code, and maybe 3,000 lines, and one comma or something
would spoil everything.
And even if when you run the error thing, and it doesn't give, it gives you like, it wants to give you a right answer, but eventually gives you a wrong result. So it's a complicated situation. So that's why people are just a bit reluctant to get into it. How did you break through all of that? And is it that complicated all the time?
So to be very honest, I think coding is just one part. There are so many tech disciplines that do not necessarily need coding. For example, UI UX, you design something, you think of something, it really tends towards the creative side, right? So a lot of people always have this misconception that, oh, tech, coding, I don't want, right? But there are so many aspects, beautiful aspects that has to do with coding. Like we were talking earlier, AI, for example. I feel like AI is going to take over. Like the way AI is going to change the world. I mean, we're already seeing a semblance of what it's going to look like in the future, right? So the point is, if for the Nigerians watching this, or for the young ones watching this, I feel like they need to discover that part of tech that can fit into their passion. Because tech can fit into any aspect. Tech is what we are currently using to, do this, right, on this show. So it's a lot of things. It's a lot. Gadgets, consumer tech, AI, coding. There's so many aspects to tech.
I'd like to talk. I'd like to delve into AI, but let's see one of your videos yet again, and then we can continue that conversation on AI. We'll be right back.
Maybe an explainer.
maybe we'll return to that and get proper audio. But we've watched that, and it was quite interesting, because the hair went off. We realized that that was not the real hair, and even the device MissTechy was holding was not a real device. And that shows you that people actually show you their high points on social media, and then they hide the other parts. So she's going to walk us through that. But how well are we managing the downsides of AI? I mean, Kayode here has had to do a disclaimer on a particular video that was put out using his voice. And there's been, quite a number of that. You've had challenges of that with our anchors. But how well are we managing the downsides?
Honestly, not too well, if I were being honest. I mean, they are trying their best. Definitely. For example, Meta has started putting up a label that shows that a video or a picture is AI generated. TikTok is doing that as well. So, I mean, these are little things that, these companies, because everybody consumes content on social media, so that's the first go-to, right? So, I mean, all of these tech companies are saying, okay, since we know that there are going to be dangers, people can deepfake anybody these days, anybody can look like anybody, speak, I can make you speak in a certain way easily, right? Well, maybe not easily, but you get the point. So all of these things are now coming up, and one of the ways that the tech companies, social media companies have realized that they can combat it is to label all this content. While I feel like that is a good step in the right direction, I also feel like there needs to be more done in that aspect. Because what about content that is shared on WhatsApp, for example? Our parents can be very funny. 1 minute, they're already spreading the gist around and saying, it's Obasanjo that said it. Do you get? So I feel that there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be done because the negative side of tech can be really bad, right?
It's quite interesting. The video we showed earlier, we're just going to walk our viewers through what you did, trying to identify what is AI or not. And I'm sure you saw some of that. The part where what, did you remove your hair or you unhaired yourself? You took off the glasses. In fact, what you had with you, well, the phone. You were just trying to say what you see is not always what it is in reality. So you showed us how you tracked your face, how you put a face on your face, makeup on your face, exactly. You took that off. So it's quite brilliant what you're doing. In fact, took off your background. So it's amazing what you can do with tech if you want to use it for good and otherwise.
Exactly.
But I want you to speak to how you were able to walk, and I think Jeff was talking about that really, how you're able to stare at tech and say, you know what, I'm going to try to conquer you, rather than the average response of, I'm not doing this, okay? And then you say, please help me do this instead. There's a lot of people who are tech averse. So I want to know, in your own journey, research and all of that, is it a cultural thing? One, is it the fact that we're not the ones who created this originally?
Yeah, true.
So naturally, we don't own the tech. There's a danger to that as well. We don't own it, so we don't see it as ours. So it's just like, it's their thing. Western world have come to it. But we need to play in that space because it's a global village, and those are the indices for development. So first, what do you think is responsible? Because you said young people, but some old people say, don't leave us out.
So I feel, honestly, it's from the grassroots. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, when I have kids, they're going to get introduced to coding right from the get-go. Like,
what age, by the way? So parents can learn.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe when I get to that point, but as early as, say, 5, right? Honestly, because
MissTechy said so, 5.
Honestly, because when you check online on YouTube, you see like tutorials for kids on how they can, expose their minds to these things. I mean, if I were giving birth to in a developed country like, say, the US, I definitely would be doing way more than what I'm doing now. That's because they get introduced to these things at the early stage, right? But there's also the passion thing, right? That is also very important. So let's say, for example, day before yesterday, there's a particular software that looked difficult, very difficult. And I told myself I wasn't going to get into it, right? But then I needed it to do something important. So guess what? I went on YouTube, watched a couple of tutorials, and now I can do, So I think it's also a passion thing. The moment you condition your mind to realize that, you know what, I need to do this thing, you would learn, right? So I feel, and I might be insulting the average youth, they should not come for me, but I feel like the average Nigerian youth is comfortable, right? We just want, okay, 95 is fine, I'm fine. We don't want to explore more because tech is about exploring. As a matter of fact, if you go to school to learn tech, you're not serious. You need to be self-taught. It's I'm waking up, I'm burning the midnight candle to learn, to make sure that I'm better.
So does this mean anybody...
You're challenging me.
Anybody can... I'm asking that question on the context of just like music.
Yeah.
When all of us came from radio. When I was on the radio, I know people who say they want to sing. God knows in my heart that if I want to say the truth, they don't have a future in music.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So does it play out like that in tech, that anybody can just be, or there are certain people that just stay off?
So the beauty of tech is there are different categories. So if you like maths, right, coding can be your thing. If you are geared towards the creative side, you can design stuff. If you like there's for example, what I do, most people might look at it and say it's content creation, but it's a lot of work. It's tech, right? I'm using different tools, using different softwares every day to come up with, unique ideas or tell a story better. It's tech, right? So I feel like Nigerians need to remove the misconception we have that tech is just one way or just one way in. There's so many ways, right? Consumer tech, coding tech, UI, UX.
Do you mind? No, just pause. Yeah, I've started. So let's go. Consumer tech, what is it? Coding tech?
Okay, so for consumer tech, these are people that are in charge of phones, right? You know how even our kids these days know phone better than even my mom, right? And she's been using phone way longer than the last born in the house, right? Now, when you look at a small kid holding the phone and pressing and playing games, actually that's tech. Now, it's just how to apply it in a more serious way, how to gravitate that talent into doing something better. So imagine as the kid is playing game, you say, do you know how they program this game? And say, no, I want to learn. And that's how it starts, right? So it doesn't have to be so strict. I feel tech, and that's how I see tech. It's fun. It's not too serious. Yes, we can use it for serious stuff, but there's so many beautiful aspects to tech that's just, I'm just enjoying the process. I know.
And, you know, talking about all those opportunities, I'd like us to explore them and what we may be missing out. But we have yet another video of what you do. Let's try to enjoy that, and then we'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, guys, let's 3D print an apartment. So first, we need to 3D model the apartment. Obviously, not on paper. Instead, I used Bamboo Labs slicer software to cut holes into the walls. Now, when I was done, it was time to print. And guys, let me tell you, this process took more than 2 days. But after I was done printing, I did a bit of wiring here and there to light up some elements in the apartment, because we cannot have Mr. Eric living in the dark, right? Then I just assembled everything together, and guys, here is the final result. How did I do? Now for the big question, how can Eric fit into that? Well, that's the easiest part. It just needs to be wrapped and dropped like this, like easy peasy, guys. Anyways, how would you rate my 3D printed apartment over 10? And what should I print next?
Tomato.
Interesting, right? So are you taking away the jobs of the architects as well?
So funny thing is, this 3D printer is one aspect that a lot of Nigerians do not know about, which is crazy. So I was doing a bit of research and I discovered that people over there make millions of money from 3D printing. It's a business. They call it printing farm, so they have a lot of 3D printers, like more than 20. And that's what they use. They just create like little models and sell it on Amazon, and they make a lot of money. The money's a lot, right? And it begs the question. So when I wanted to buy the 3D printer, I couldn't find anybody. Like, I only saw 2 vendors in the whole of Nigeria.
What?
Yeah. Wow. Shocking, and they obviously doubled the price. Now, the reason why I actually use the 3D printing is because that alone makes a lot of money. Why are Nigerians not looking into, okay, having one, using it to sell something, like even for toys, right? There are so many avenues, right? So this is one aspect that I feel like there's a lot of money, there's a lot of potentials to be made, or money to be made from this. But because of the fact that we just see tech as a one-way street, many people are not looking into that aspect. 3D printing is a huge business, right? And like you rightly said, there are other ways, right? I know people that are my friends that right from the comfort of their home, they didn't even need to leave anywhere. They're making like 6 figures working for global tech companies because they have skills. And that is the beauty of tech. You don't need to you don't need to have like a major experience to be able to make money. The moment you're able to do certain things and do it well, and obviously we have now social media, you promote your work over there, it's so easy. So I was remember the event we went for, I was sharing with the students there that I just feel like we need to move away from consuming content and creating stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of which, you know, besides the consumer tech that you've talked about, there are quite a number of other opportunities. There's fintech, there's digital payments, there's the potential for e-commerce. But what about the challenge of connectivity? You know, because some would say, the mistakes of this world can only survive in places like Lagos and Abuja, where the issues of connectivity have been solved. But what about other parts of the country where we have huge potential in people like you, but because of the challenge of connectivity?
Honestly, I do agree that that is a major challenge. But if we do like a survey, the average people over there, that's the young ones, they find a way to buy, even if it's 5 gig data, right? It might finish within a week. It's 500 naira, but they buy data. Now imagine if rather than, because I noticed one thing with the consumer tech space, especially platforms, social media platforms, I noticed that they consume, the people that have like feature phones, these are phones that are not really expensive, they consume a lot of content on these social media platforms, right? Now imagine if that amount of time you spend consuming with your 5 gig can be used to watch a YouTube tutorial that would help you or will make you, you know, feel enlightened. So I feel it's just misplaced priority sometimes, right? Would rather consume content, would rather laugh, enjoy skits and all of that than learn something. So once we change our perspective to, you know what, let me balance it. I'm not saying, okay, do not watch content, but let me balance it. Let me learn. With that 5 gig, I can spread it across. 2 gig for watching funny videos, 2 gig for learning.
I like how practical you are. Because in fact, some people don't think about their data and when it finishes, it finishes. But you actually have to allocate resources, and your data is actually a resource because you paid for it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that we should move from consumption to production. That's why I chuckled when you said that. And it's not just for industries; it's also for tech. Content. We always say that we have brilliant ideas, but how well are we translating that into what it should be? So I want you rather to walk us through some of the, the interesting techs you have found lately that we can use to make life easier for ourselves. And I think AI ranks top.
Oh yes.
on that one, but I think it would also help us to see what we can do in-house, and I want to tie it to what we can do in-house as Nigerians. Fine, we might say that we didn't start this, but we can leapfrog. We've seen what India is doing. We've seen what China is doing, and other countries. So what are the trends, and how can Nigeria maybe catch up and leapfrog?
Honestly, you hit the nail on the head. AI. Now, yes, the thing about AI that I feel like Nigerians are not really jumping on, localizing AI. Right?
What does that mean?
So let's say, for example, you go to an AI website and you type in a prompt and it gives you an answer. It's English. Everything is just English. Now imagine if you create a base model of that, but you now use translate it to Yoruba, translate it to Igbo, translate it to Hausa, different dialects, right? And even teach people how to speak. For example, I don't really know how to speak Yoruba. It's bad. I'm a Yoruba babe, but well. So imagine an AI that helps me know my local language, right? Now if someone were to think about that, create that, it would shock you to discover that a lot of people are like me. And a lot of people would use that product, download that product, and that's how it goes, right? So there's so many potentials. I feel like we could go on and on about AI because there are many aspects that we can actually localize AI to fit into our context as Nigerians, and we would shine, right? Because over there, they don't understand Yoruba English, but here you'll be king because you're going to appeal to a lot of people that understand and relate to what you're doing, right? So, yeah.
All right, so as we begin to wind down, my curious question has to do with why we have a lot of this technology, yet there's so much crime. Does it bother you as a techie?
Sure. Crime on cyberspace or crime physically?
Whether it's street crime,
whether it's offline or online.
Honestly,
maybe we should start with the cyberspace crime.
Cyberspace is a lot to deal with, but yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, but I mean there are tech gadgets to help solve that. I mean, in developed countries, they have street cams, right, which has helped to even discover a lot of crimes, right? I mean, the tech has a way of helping solving things, right? But the main issue is actually the cyberspace. And that's one way, I feel, one area that Nigerians need to look into, because in the next coming years, we're going to have a high spike with cybersecurity. Like, people are going to be stealing data because that's going to be the main thing, right? So imagine you watching this if you jump into cybersecurity, and beauty is, it's so easy to learn. Everything is on YouTube. You go online, you learn, and then you take a certification, and that's how you become something, right? So that's one aspect, or that's one projection that a lot of people, researchers have said, that cybersecurity jobs are going to be on the high because of the rate of cyber crimes, right? So if you're watching this, that's one secret.
1 second, Jeff. Do you consider cybercrime, cyber fraud, do you consider them as techies as well? Are they tech bros and Texas?
Last, yeah. I'm sorry, but they are.
They are.
They are.
I mean, at this point, anyone that knows how to use the tech tools well is a tech bro.
But then cyber fraud is being used negatively.
That, unfortunately, that's the other side of it. But
we must emphasize that.
There's something playing in my head, but I don't want to say it. Toby Ayeni, founder of MissTechy, thank you so much. And also a content creator. Tech content creator. Yes. I like that part.
Texas as well. Do you like that?
Texas.
I mean, that's our
tech babe. She calls us a tech babe. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's it on today's episode of the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Zongo.
And we're back where we started. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Start by reviewing the use of your data. Learn a skill, as MissTechy has advised. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Don't forget, everything you have is a resource. The time you have right now is a resource. So use it well so you can get the right returns. Well, Sunrise Daily is next, so use your time wisely and stay right here with Channels Television. I'm Karen. Goodbye.
Bye.